Hi. I'm here with my Bluey cup and I'm gonna tell another version of the story I just told because this is a re-record. I just looked up some of the stuff that I talked about in the video that I'm not gonna be posting anymore, and I wanna like dive a little deeper into what I was saying. Ooh, for good luck. So basically, I had originally filmed a video right before this talking about my mom and her ability to compartmentalize. Why is that so hard for me to say? Compartmentalize traumas and painful memories, just thoughts and things like that. And I looked it up and I'm a little worried. But basically, I want to talk about this because if anybody has a relative or maybe is going through this and doesn't even realize it, because my mom definitely doesn't have a name for it. I don't even think she realizes she does it, but it is something that maybe I should talk to her about, and maybe after, right before posting this, I'll give her a call and we'll talk about it. But this is something that is super unique because I didn't realize that this was what was happening. Basically, how I discovered this about my mom and what it essentially is this idea that, not idea, but this act of being confronted with painful events or memories or traumatic things and kind of putting them in the deepest, darkest part of your brain to kind of to not have to live with it, essentially, and not experience it. It is a coping mechanism. It is a way to deal with traumatic things, or not deal with, but it is definitely something that I realize my mother does. And if you've seen my video about my mom, then you know that she's not a real person. She is, I don't know, I'll just never compare to her in terms of just like such a heavenly, beautiful presence inside and out. Just nothing, just a selfless, beautiful person. Imagine that. That's my mom. That's who she is. And I didn't realize that a big part of what keeps her that kind and that selfless and joyful is this thing that she does, which is to basically put a delete button, or to put all these kind of traumatic things that she's been through in her life, things that I may not even know because she probably won't tell me because they're sitting in her trash bin in her brain, and just doesn't look back there. She doesn't open it up. She doesn't look at it. Let me reminisce and look back. Why would you do that? It makes sense. It makes sense. So how I found this out, how this occurred, was that I was, based on my last video, so thank you guys so much for watching my last video, by the way, where I talk about this kind of silent era that I went through with my dad. And during that cold shoulder era, my mom was getting really concerned. And I think she was trying her hardest not to offend me or to bring it up as best she could, but finally she was really concerned, and I could tell, and she finally talked with me at the kitchen table and was like, I feel like you hate your dad, and and in religious terms that's like, oh my god, that's a death sentence, but also like she was just so concerned and it was worrying her, and she's the type to like stay up all night praying about stuff like this, and I was like, oh my gosh, no. And I told her like, no, I'm not, I can't even say it, like I don't feel that way. It is just something that I feel like has come for a long time. This is something that stems from childhood, and it's something that's I'm realizing the older I get that my dad has treated me this way or hasn't really respected me as a person, and I don't know, I'm just not engaging with him in these times. And bringing up the stuff about me being a kid, she was super confused. She was like, wait, what? That's not you. What do you mean when you were a kid? And I was like, yeah, like when I was a kid, all the stuff that we went through. And she wasn't getting it, and that was really confusing to me because as a kid my dad was very physical in his discipline, and it included belts, and it included hands-on, and it included pain and crying and screaming, and it was just not good. And it was just it's deep inside, but there's definitely like emotional scars there, and that maybe me, upon reflection, having always told myself that it's normal, I turned out fine, it's normal, you know, like look at me, I turned out okay, which, you know, true, but that doesn't mean that it just disappears or goes away. So the older I got and more I was like, maybe I'm not fine. maybe that wasn't okay. Yeah, won't be doing that in the future to my own kids, but it's what I went through and it's just my experience. So it was kind of like the grass is green, the sky is blue. It was just a fact. This happened. So for my mom to sit there kind of not getting what I was saying, it was really weird to me. And why's my nose clogged? It was really weird to me. And so I was like, yeah, you know, like when he would hit us and, you know, beat us when we were kids. She was shocked. She was like, your dad never did that. He never hit. When I heard that, I went through so many emotions. And I think it did hurt in the moment. But I thought she was kidding. She had to be kidding. But at the same time, I know my mom, and I know she's not the type of person to like kid around for fun, to like hurt another person. Like she would never hurt me, period. So like not even in like a joking way, like she would just never do that. So I was confused. I was like, what do you mean? My jaw was on the floor, first of all. But so I had to find an answer. I was like, what do you mean? You were there. You were either like right outside the room or you were in the room, and like you were quiet and you never did anything. But that's not I don't blame you. like it wasn't me being like, this is your fault. No, this was not what I was trying to do or trying to say. And I think my mom was going through her own, like, and I could see it. I could see her freaking out, like, what is she talking about here? And I realized in that moment, because something clicked and I made a connection, and that connection was the fact that I remember my mom discussing the car accident she had been through years prior, which was traumatic, is all I can think to describe it. The worst that anyone in my family has been through. It was her and my dad, and it was in Dominican Republic of all places. And maybe I'll make a video about it one day, and maybe I'll even present photos, because the photos are insane. And there was videos too, because there was, you know, bystanders and people and stuff. And the car, I always like to describe it as being Hulk smashed. Like it looked like Hulk had completely smashed the car. And my mother had to be, well, first of all, my dad was dragged out. I'll make a video about it. But my mother was conscious during that accident, and while she was being taken to the hospital. It was a big thing. Like there was blood running down her face. It was a big thing. And there was a hospital stay, there was surgery, things happened. But I'm very grateful to God, because my parents were able to walk away from that accident. You know, the fact they're able to walk away, period, is amazing. You would look at that car and be like, I don't know who got in that accident, but there's no way anybody's breathing. But they did, and they are, you know, basically made full recoveries. And yeah, I could have lost my parents at like 20 years old, I think I was, 21. I was still in college. So that was really scary. But I remember my mom discussing the accident afterwards, and people would ask her, because she was conscious, my dad wasn't, you know, if she was scared of cars, you know. And she said, no, I actually don't remember the accident at all. I have no memory of it, which is crazy, because there's video of her like talking and moving and just like, you know. And that's terrible, but I'm thinking back on it. But Joe, don't cry. I'm fine. Me and my bluey cup, we're perfect. But I don't know. I'm the opposite of my mom. I rehash things in my mind. I don't rehash things out loud all the time, but like I go back through certain things, and I'm like, I relive them, and it's painful and it's hard, and it's like, these are my shower thoughts a lot of the times. And like I kind of review them like a movie, and I just kind of scan them, and you know, I think about what I could have done or did differently, or maybe that's bad. Maybe it's a bad thing to do, but it's what I do. but my mom's method is completely different. That's what clicked for me in that moment at the kitchen table when I was talking to her, and she was freaking out because she couldn't remember what she had witnessed happening to like her kids, you know, my mom who loves kids, my mom who runs a daycare, my mom who like, yeah, she could not remember. And she was so distraught that she was like willing to call my dad and ask him himself. She's like, I'm gonna talk to him, I'm gonna ask him because that's not right. And I told her not to do that because I realized what was happening here. And in that moment, it clicked for me that my mom compartmentalizes her traumas, and she takes them and she puts them in the furthest part of her brain where she cannot recall them. And that was so fascinating to learn about my own mother, about how she deals with things, because it made me question, like, is this the reason she's such a happy, bubbly person, you know, that she's willing to go through so many things, is because, you know, she puts all her traumas away? It was really shocking. And yeah, my dad confirmed it. I told her not to call him, but she called him anyway. He confirmed it, and he said he had to do that for disciplinary reasons. And my mom told him to apologize, and I was like, no, I don't need an apology. It's not, if you saw my video, then you understand everything. Everything's good now. But it was really shocking to learn that. And I didn't realize that was a thing that people did, or like, you know, anyone I knew. And I'd realized there might be a lot of things that have happened in my mom's life that I may never know about because she doesn't remember them herself. So I may not know everything that my mom had been through in her life, and that was like a really sad thing for me to realize, because I'm just now realizing that in this moment. But it's really shocking. And I feel like I'm the opposite. That's not how I deal with trauma. And upon looking this up and reading it more, it's recommended that you go through these traumas therapeutically, and you like are able to talk them out and go through these things so that you are not accidentally triggered in the middle of something, for example. And one of the examples that I read on Google said that if you had perhaps compartmentalized a trauma as big as like a car accident, and then the sound of a screeching car braking triggers you, and you are completely in this like state of, I don't know what's happening right now, I don't know why I'm having like a reaction, because that trauma was never really dealt with. It really scares me. So it might, I at first I kind of considered it a really strong thing. My mom is so strong-willed, and so it requires so much strength and willpower to do something like that, to continue living, like not letting the awful things in your life stop you, or make you interact with the world any differently, because that's something I'm always afraid of bitterness. I'm afraid of like hating the world around me because I learned so much about it. I always want to love what's around me. I always want to love what I see, who I meet. Why does this happen? This happens every once in a while where I'm like, I feel like I'm like underwater, where everything's normal, I'm breathing fine, and then this happens when I sing too. Like after a while, like I feel like everything's clogged, and it's really weird. Like I'm not sick at the moment. It just feels like cut off. Anyway, that was random. But yeah, I'm worried about that. But you know, my mom has to be one of the strongest people I know, and then if you meet her, she's probably taken for granted a lot because of how kind she is. But I don't think she cares. I don't think she cares if she's taken advantage of. I mean, everyone cares, but I think it's just, I don't want that to be taken as weakness, you know, ever, because she's been through so much and never talks about it, which is good and worrisome. So if you have any experience with this, or if you know anybody like this, or maybe you yourself do this, then it might be interesting to ask yourself some questions, or ask them some questions, or not, you know? it's kind of like, well, if it works for her, you know, well, if it's working, you know, why break it, you know? It's not really anything for me to decide or choose or do for my mom. I can only be there for her. And if she wants to remember something, then I will gladly help her through that. But other than that, I don't know if there's a whole lot I can do. Because truthfully, she's happy. She's happy and she's joyful and she's great. And I don't want that to ever change. I don't want that to ever change. But it's I don't know. I thought it was so interesting. And again, if you're going through something similar or know something like this, or you know more about this, comment so we can talk. So that would be really great. But yeah, that's today's video. I don't know why I wanted to talk about that, but and also I also wanted to mention that the last video that I made with my dad, or the last video where I talked about my dad, did the best on this channel like that this whole year, and I just want to say thank you. But I also realized that I have a lot of stories that would kind of be shocking and would probably do well and do better than that video even, but I'm always very hesitant and I'm always very always very scared of the people watching and the people and the result of that. Because although I do believe that if something is my experience and something is my story, then I have every right to talk about it and tell it how I experienced it, emphasis on me, because it'd be different if I was telling like someone else's story. I want to be sensitive, but also like my story involves other people and other things, so I want to be sensitive, but I still have this aching feeling that it is my right to tell my stories. But yeah, so I'll definitely be getting to this kind of bigger things that I've been wanting to talk about, that these kind of like things. But have a good week. Bye. Thank you for listening.